Hello and thanks for joining the first edition of Journalist Hangout. This week, I'm Ayodele Ozubakun. Today on the program, Nigeria loses 4.6 billion naira to systems collapse in power sector in 3 days. Army and Air Force crush Boko Haram fighters in Sambisa Forest. And later on the show, federal government promises a new minimum wage this year. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju, Ismail Omekbidon, and Mayor Akinpelu. So if you are ready, let the hangout start now. Glad to have you back. One of the sectors that remain perpetually in distress in Nigeria is the energy sector. For decades, the sector has heaped a great burden on Nigerians. Its gifts are either fuel scarcity or outright darkness. As the country crossed into 2018, the sector gave Nigerians its usual gifts. First, fuel scarcity plunged the people into an end-of-the-year hardship. And in the early hours of 2018, the country was thrown into another darkness. Yes, between January and the 1st and the 4th, Nigeria's power grid collapsed. Yes, that's not the first time it's collapsed. The Guardian newspaper estimates that within the 3-day darkness, Nigeria lost more than 4.6 billion naira worth revenue. As Nigeria counts the loss, some youths in Niger State are threatening to shut down the 3 power plants in the states over epileptic supply. When will the energy sector meet the expectations of the people? Babajide, I experienced it last week, and let me first of all start with the stability, seeming stability we had during the Yuletide. As at that time, I didn't experience it, but a lot of people will come and tell me that they are doing 18 hours, they are doing 12 hours, they are doing almost 24 hours. Somebody was even telling me that they did a week stretch, no power outage. But that might not be used as a parameter for the whole of the country. So after that information, the president came out in a speech, to acknowledge the fact that for the first time we're doing 7,000 megawatts. So I think that's also unprecedented. But 48 hours after the president said that in a speech, or 24 hours after, we had this system collapse. And the whole country was thrown into darkness. I think there was a fire outbreak in one of their, So, but it's disheartening when you go to countries like Morocco, when you go to small countries like Togo, when you go to Ghana, and you see that the provision and they can sustain 24 hours light. A lot of people will even argue that Ghana, they still take in some part and everything, but they experience stability. How has it been that we've not experienced stability at all? Let's say we start from, okay, Lagos, Abuja as a test case. We have the money. We have everything it takes. What is the problem?
No, there is a whole lot of problems. First, let me say that one thing that amuses me about our people is that when in your area you experience regular electricity supply, maybe on the average you get 18 hours, you assume that every Nigerian enjoys. Because I live in Nakute, I'm always proud to say it here. And anyone who lives in that area, when you talk about, oh, you got 24 hours, you got a whole week, you got 18 hours, they will just be looking at you like you are living that, like they are in a different country. And it's a lot worse in some places. In some places, a whole week, they won't even experience light. There are places in Nigeria where a whole month, they've not had light. There are some places in Nigeria, in fact, in Ekiti State, there are some towns, for the whole of the year, they didn't have light.
In Mowe, in Bafo, there are some areas
these are verifiable things, and people, those who are managing to watch, they can tell you that
managing to watch.
Yes, if they are able, if they have fuel supply and all that, they will tell you that they've not had light for some time. I think in Moyin, local government in Ekiti, there was a time that we had that they've not had light for like 6 months. So let's not always think that okay, because the problem in my own area, there is electricity supply, then we imagine that problem has been solved.
Getting better?
No, it is wrong. You can see what those youths in Niger State. Niger State is one of the states in Nigeria that has the worst form of power outage.
Meanwhile, they are the landlords.
They have 3 power stations, 3 hydro power stations in Jeba, in Kanji, and in Shiroro. Yet,
Shiroro?
Yes, if you go to Mina today, if you spend 24 hours in Mina, if you are lucky, maybe in the hotel where you stay, you will have electricity for 5 hours, over 24 hours. So, and that's where you have 3 power plants. One of those 3 power plants, the one in Kanji, is supposed to deliver 700 megawatts, and we still have Shiroro. You know, so they don't have light problem. It depends on where you live. It depends on where. It's just like a fuel supply. You are in Lagos now. It has normalized in Lagos.
You can't say the scarcity is over.
But the story that Kolome Dala in Maiduguri sent yesterday indicates that people buy fuel for 450 naira a liter. In some, even up in Ekiti State, people still buy at 220 naira a liter. So the fact that you are already enjoying it in Lagos or in Abuja does not mean that you should not spare a thought for other Nigerians. You are not more Nigerian than other people. You are just fortunate because you live in a place where this thing is readily available. Back to the issue. One of the best things we can do for ourselves is to liberalize that sector to the point that even cities can individuals can build power plants and supply people who are ready to pay.
Directly.
Who are ready to pay. Not what we are doing now that, oh, you must feed it to the national grid. And then at the end of the day, even the area where the power is generated. You know, what these youths in Niger State are fighting for is similar to what happened in Kwara. When Bukola Saraki, after those, Yaradua stopped the power projects. When they stopped the power projects, some of those contractors left in anger. But Bukola Saraki brought them back in Kwara, and they continued the power project in Gomo. But after the power project was completed, with money, with Kwara money, the electricity generated will first be fed into the national grid, so that people in areas like Oyo North, Kishi, and the rest of them, they will get.
And then at the expense of
what comes to Lagos, I mean, what comes to Kwara will be so little that it will just look like a state that has not got no power plant in place. So this has to be liberalized, whereby people living in Lekki, for example, if a company can generate electricity for them, they should be able to pay. And then they will get electricity. And I also think that we must invest in alternative sources of electricity generation. Right now, the power plants affected largely by gas supply are those thermal power stations, Egbin or Motosho, you know. At the end of the day, because there was no gas supply to those power plants, the electricity grid tripped off. And why didn't they get supply? Because of the fire outbreak along the Escravos Lagos power, gas pipeline, somewhere around Okada. They had this fire outbreak and then affected gas supply to all this place. So if we have different sources of electricity generation,
not be
wind,
on
solar, and the rest,
on one.
if it looks likely that if Nigeria goes into a war, it's easy to put the whole nation in darkness.
Oh, without going to war.
They will just need to bomb a few places where they bomb the gas pipelines and a few places, and then you are in darkness. So that is the thing. And I think they broke it down. How did they arrive at 4 billion? On January 4, we lost 1.5 billion. January 3rd, we lost 1.6 billion. January 2nd, we lost 1.3 billion. And 9,162 megawatts will have been generated during that period that was not generated. So that's how we lost
Ismail, it seems that this problem, because when you look at the roadmap by the last administration, when Professor Naji was the power minister and everything, and I was following that roadmap, and even our business correspondent, Tolu Ogujobi, you know, was reporting as, you know, and it seemed the way, the timeline that it was reeled out as at that time, it seemed we are going to overcome this power problem. But unfortunately, due to politics and everything, Naji was removed, and I don't know, till now they are not able to follow that particular roadmap, and we are back to Babatunde Raji Fashola now. And I've known since the days of Bola Ige that he told us that he's going to turn stone into...
Are they not following it? Because of the Fashola even came out publicly to say they were following the same
roadmap. So
some of the power plants that they built have already been inaugurated.
Where are we now?
No, well, I think the problem we have in this country, it's lack of, we lack focus most times, because it's a different thing to have a timeline, and it's a different thing, it's another thing to follow it, pursue it religiously. I say so because I'm aware that in 2016, we had a similar system collapse, I think around September or so. And according to the report then, I think that was about the 17th time it was collapsing. Now, in that same year, Fashola was in Kaduna. You know, there's this power plant around the Kudende area in Kaduna. I think the power plant is supposed to generate 215 megawatt. The state government is planning to use that and the one generated by Gurara to resuscitate the textile industry. And Fashola at that function said that the power plant will come up by June 2017. I'm sure we're in 2018 already. I'm not sure that power plant has come up. Now, the contract, the original contract for the award of that power plant was awarded in 2009. And the completion period was 36 months. So if you calculate, if you look at 2009 to now, that's like about 7 years. So if it's going to take us about 7 years to complete a power plant that is supposed to generate 215 megawatts, I wonder how long it will take us to take care of the whole country. The truth is, the federal government erred ab initio when it came with this idea of privatizing NEPA. I'm not against liberalizing the sector, but if you want to compete, you have something, you say you can do it better than me. Why will I now hand over my own to you to run? Why don't you bring your own expertise? And then I run my own side by side with your own. If it is competition, if you run it better than me, I'm sure Nigerians will come for you. But they stripped NEPA naked. Unfortunately, it was our money. Those who bought whatever they bought within the power sector, Nigerians' money they used in buying it, and I'm not sure they have finished paying it. And if we're having this kind of problem when government was in charge, and we still have it now when supposedly government hands off, it means that for now there seems to be no hope.
I'm going to take it from the point of view that I blame General Obasanjo. I think our problem basically has to do with Obasanjo. Why did I say that? Because he was the one leader that wanted to solve the problem of energy. And he was able to convince the governors to say, okay, let us take part of the excess crude oil account. Let's take money from the excess crude oil and invest in energy. And they did. But unfortunately, they lack foresight in the way they went about it. Like he said, they should diversify the generation to say, okay, let us do solar in some areas, let us increase our hydro generation, let us do wind in some areas, let us do coal in some areas. They didn't do that. The only thing, they awarded contracts for thermal stations. Yes. So everything, out of the 26 power generating units that we have in Nigeria, only 3 is hydro. The other 3 runs on gas. And when you run on gas, and you now depend on pipelines from the Niger Delta to power all these people, it does not take rocket science. It's because it happens in the fuel sector when they will just cut the pipe. So it's so easy for people to sabotage it because the pipeline is so long that you can cut it at anywhere. And what causes this so-called system collapse? It is because when you cut gas to these thermal stations, you understand, then that means the number of the units that you can generate will go low. And when it goes low, then there must be collapse because there's a minimum requirement for the grid to be there. Then another problem, another mistake that they made, because they invested a lot of billions of dollars into this thing, nobody had the foresight to say, well, this is our whole grid that's been there, that's dilapidated, that is old, that somebody, let us work on the grid. They didn't work on the grid. They just concentrate on generating. So when you generate, you still have to use the same grid that is old. And the grid, the grid cannot take more than anything. So sometimes you generate 5,000, but you cannot transmit the 5,000 there because the grid cannot take it. So if you overload the grid, it will collapse. Okay. So it is lack of foresight because they were investing so much money and they didn't look at it properly. So the only way is for us to go back to the basics. It is not, we have to look at the problem of the grid. How do we transmit what has been generated? We have spent so much money in generating. And the
federal government controls the transmission company of Nigeria.
Yes, the federal government controls it. So we have to solve that problem. And I think now they've agreed, the federal government has agreed to liberalize that sector because I learned from the government that Lagos State government is planning to really invest a lot in energy and transmit within Lagos. So they'll be able to solve.
What Jide was saying now,
yes, that's what they want to do. I think so in 2018,
getting it to the
Lagos, Lagos State, because you know during the time of Ashwaju, you know during the time of Ashwaju, they brought Aaron and we had that problem. Yes. They would generate. You have to take it to the same grid that is old and you cannot solve any problem. So we have to solve the problem of distribution before we can move forward. We are only concentrating on generating.
Okay, let me take my first caller. This person is calling from Bida in Niger State. Thank you, Abu.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Abu. I wonder how you are watching us.
And good evening, the other panelists.
Thank you. Good evening.
Especially Mr. DJ.
I agree too. You now get light.
Thank you for your deep insight analysis on critical issues affecting the nation. And I think the federal government should declare a state of emergency in the power sector. Because lack of power has affected a lot of businesses. And then we have the experts. We have human resources, people like Professor Adebi George. So that the high time we diversify to other sources of energy, I think it should be better for us, because it has affected our economy greatly. And then you people have not discussed the issue of IPADEC. We in Niger State, we are suffering seriously. IPADEC bill was before the National Assembly during the days of Obasanjo administration. And up to recently, we have not seen anything. People in the Niger Delta are enjoying some benefits. We in Niger State Power, we are not enjoying anything. I think you guys should deliberate on those issues.
Thank you, Abu. Jide, that IPADEC thing, is it talking about?
Yeah, that they will expect that people
because electricity they are producing.
Yes, that at least some benefits should come to them. They too were asking for something like derivation, which the Niger
Delta people had 10%.
Yes, that was what they were asking for at that time. But the truth is, they suffer electricity, power outage more than even many parts of Nigeria. Anybody who is resident in Niger,
it's not an advantage in any way.
They don't. There's no advantage. You see, the thing is, the problem of electricity in Nigeria is much more than even the president presented. When I listened to the president's speech, I was telling myself that the president has to know that the problem is not relay generation. The problem is transmission and distribution.
Please enlighten us.
Yeah, because transmission and distribution. For example, you can actually generate
7,000.
at the stock capacity now. We can generate in excess of 10,000 megawatts.
If every plant is.
But are the distribution companies prepared to take the load that you are giving to them?
They have the capacity.
Yes.
That's why the transmission comes in.
Are they prepared?
The grid cannot transmit it.
No, I'm even going to that.
Okay.
Even what they give them,
Okay,
what they give the distribution companies. They reject sometimes. Why? They know the communities, the states, I mean the towns where they get paid. So when you give them, maybe you generate 1,000 megawatts. You give Lagos, for example.
You know that sure bets.
Yes, they know that in GRA Ikeja, they are likely to be paid. They know that in Alimosho, they could even be beaten up. Yes. So rather than they will not give those people
At all.
So that is like a shorting in the real sense. Instead of giving those people
divert it.
No, they would rather give only the people that they are sure will pay, which means what they have given them, they are rejecting part of what the transmission company of Nigeria has given them. So you give them so much, but they are actually ready to take a little.
Because the money. Oh, I have Olu. I think Olu is calling us from Ekiti State. Elu?
Hello.
Ekiti State. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. You people are doing a very good job.
Thank you, Olu.
Yeah. Mr. Jide was just mentioning Ekiti State, that we didn't have power. Hello?
Hello, go ahead.
Yeah, that we didn't have power completely in Ekiti. I'm calling from Ekiti East local government area, which is to Jide's, area. We did not have power for 1.5 years.
Which area is that?
We just got connected about a month ago. And for 7
area?
days now,
Where are you calling from in Ekiti?
I'm calling from Omuoke.
Omuoke. Okay.
Yes, in Ekiti East local government area.
Okay.
Of Ekiti State.
1.5 years.
1.5 years.
There are places to 1 year.
That's serious.
That's what, it's terrible. So when you enjoy it, don't imagine that it's all rosy for everybody. That is the point. So we have all kinds of problems. You know, this power generation is like a relay. You generate, you give it to the transmission people. The transmission people will give the distributors. So those distributors now, their own problem is because they are owed so much. People are owing them. They will rather, they will rather give to people who can pay. So it means that the efforts of the GENCOs, the efforts of the transmission company gets frustrated
by the discos.
Gets frustrated at the level of the discos. So it is not you can generate 1 million megawatts, but how do you can you evacuate what you generate? Which is the point that Mayor made. We do not have the capacity to evacuate even all of what we generate. The equipment are obsolete. In some places, you need to change. You need to put transformers and all this. You need to invest more in the transmission equipment.
Is this not the same problem that is facing us when it comes to our refineries? That successive administrations have not done anything, giving us a new refinery. We're always doing turnaround maintenance. What is the rocket science about updating the grid?
If we must tell ourselves the truth, the privatization of that sector was compromised from the beginning.
Absolutely.
And you remember the former national planning minister, you know, the Kano man, Shamsuddin Usman, former deputy governor of CBN, former French teacher. He said it clearly. Yes, he was a French teacher in Kano before he went to CBN. Yes.
It's story for another day.
No, yeah, you see,
because
we need to
I can't reconcile.
We need to let people know where some people began from. You know, Adamuchi Roman was a journalist before he went to CBN to become CBN governor. So it's part of history.
Outwork, who is a Greek minister, read French.
You know, so this is the thing. He was a French teacher. He taught some of my friends like Nasir Zaradin French in Kano, but that's by the way. Now, he talked about how the whole privatization process of that sector was compromised. We gave people who do not have capacity. Yeah. For us to, who even lack the knowledge. You cannot move, you can't, people who are running banks, We gave them the power sector to run. Now they don't have money to make it happen. The UN, the World Bank envisages that on the average, over a period of like maybe 5 years, we must invest not less than 10 billion in that sector.
10 billion naira or dollars?
$10 billion.
10 billion US dollars.
10 billion US dollars. Nigerian banks cannot finance that.
We are borrowing $1 billion.
Nigerian banks,
we need $1 billion.
If we even want to do a project of 15 billion in Nigeria, you need a consortium of Nigerian banks to provide that money. So now, if you want over a period of 5 years, you want this amount of money. It has to be consistent. We can't, that kind of investment, these people that have inherited the power sector, they can't make that happen. They can't make that happen. And we are scared to say, okay, let's cancel this whole transaction because we know litigation. Fashola is a lawyer. He knows that this is a problem, but he's powerless. He's just there watching because you can't think of taking this, cancelling the transaction. They will take you to court.
Ismail, rounding off on this, way forward.
Well, it's the only way forward. It's, I mean, for the leadership to get cracking. But you see, the problem, like he said, you see, each time we want to do privatization, we want to do anything, those who want to buy it, they are the same people who will draft the legal details. And they will do it in such a way that they will tie the hand of the government in such that even when they are not performing, you cannot reverse, whatever, whatever it is that they have done. Well, I think the government can probably sit down with the investors and, I mean, find out what it is that they can give and take.
They will say they will ask for more money,
yes,
and you will give them money.
I was told that there was a point that they gave them bail.
They have given them
bailout before.
Okay, let me take Abdul is calling from Niger State. We seem to have a lot of viewers from Niger State. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Yes, go ahead with your contribution.
Please, I just what I want to say first and foremost is whatever you are saying. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Please, I want what my contribution is just little. My contribution is just little. Okay, thank you very much. In Niger, some parts of Niger are having like some parts where some parts doesn't have. From where I'm calling from, we have like 24 hours in Niger State. From the side I'm calling from. I'm calling from border in Kuta local government.
Okay.
We have like 24 hours in Kuta local government.
Okay.
So that's my advice to you is whatever you are discussing on TV screen, it should be very straightforward and sincere, which I appreciate your debate. So
thank you. Thank you, Abdul. I think Jide has said it all. That, it's the thing is
that you have does not mean others have.
Yes,
of course.
And I was told that Niger State is the biggest state in Nigeria.
Yes.
So if you have in one part, that
doesn't mean the others.
What he's even saying, just between December 24 and 25, some of our youths had a program in Federal Polybida. They had to go and see NEPA personally to ensure that there was light within the environment where the program was held.
I think the federal government should concentrate more on transmission and distribution. And the best way to
transmission and distribution.
And the best way to go about that is to allow everybody that has the means to get involved in the business. We can start with states. States that can do, each state should generate their own electricity, transmit and distribute.
Yes.
So Lagos State should be able to do that. Lagos can do that. We can get our own. We can distribute our energy independent of the national grid. In fact, because the national grid
require amendment of the
Constitution. That's another
those
thing.
things.
Because, yes.
Buhari can't just sit in his office in Abuja and make that happen. Because so these things are
they were written.
No, but it's something. It's something we can build consensus on.
That is a general
something
thing.
we can build consensus on. In fact,
that won't take any problem in national
if it is
assembly.
to amend just that
aspect, to
that
say,
aspect.
okay,
it's just like state police. It's just like state police.
Any aspect of the Constitution,
it's a constitutional matter.
It will go through the same process.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
What I'm saying is that
if we can build, if we can build consensus, if we can build consensus on it, if we can build consensus on it, look, this is our major problem. This is how to solve it, and we all go after it.
Okay, after the break, troops bomb Boko Haram structure in Sambisa Forest. We'll be right back after this time out. Please stay with us. Welcome back. After premature celebration of the victory last year, the Nigerian Armed Forces has now begun serious clearance operation in Sambisa Forest. The same forest it earlier claimed to have recaptured. Beg your pardon? On Saturday, the Nigerian Air Force claimed troops dealt a great blow on Boko Haram as it dropped a series of bombs on its locations. It reported that while it handled the air bombardments, the army coordinated ground attacks. It said the attacks were aimed at preventing the full-scale resurgence of Boko Haram terrorists in the Sambisa area. It seems the era of propaganda is over. Right now, we are telling the home truth, because when this same Sambisa forest, we actually took the flag, we took Quran, we took it to the president at that time, saying that this is a sign that that place has been captured. But the good news here, Babajide, is that the coordination of the military and the Air Force were able to record something substantive. And any time I hear about news like this, I'm always, very, very happy that we are making progress.
Yes, it's a very good piece of news, because during this Harmattan season, it's been very difficult for us to have coordinated attacks on the enemy, with the Air Force actively involved, with the Army actively involved. But I guess the skies were a little kind on the Nigerian Air Force, so they were able to, first of all, save their own troops who were locked in battle with Boko Haram inside Sambisa. They went in, saved their own troops, and then joined the Nigerian Army in its clearance operations in the Sambisa area. One of the fiercest battles actually took place 12 kilometers from Camp Zairo, which we captured then. It means, so I agree with the army when it says that they were trying to stop the full-scale resurgence of Boko Haram in Sambisa, because if they can go back to the Camp Zairo area, it means they must have thought that, well, Sambisa, we own Sambisa. The Camp Zairo where
and we have some advantages there.
Our soldiers captured the other day, we are back there. So now the ground is hard now. We can roll army trucks into Sambisa or hinder. It is when it begins to rain that they can't put those army trucks. If you see these pictures, you see the Nigerian army trucks, multi-terrain vehicles right there inside Sambisa, and their own vehicles are still burning. Because the Air Force was actively involved. All their major aircraft, the F-7, the Alpha Jet, the Mi-17, the Mi-35, they were all actively involved in this operation. Because as they were trying to flee,
rolling out all their arsenal.
Yes, the locations were first bombed by the fighter jets, the F-7, the supersonic aircraft, and the Alpha Jet. Then, as they were trying to escape, then they got the ground attack helicopters, the Mi-17, Mi-35, to finish them off. So as
they took to
they were trying to escape, the ground attack helicopter, is usually closer to the ground, low altitude strafing and all that. So it was a good day for our troops, because they've been killing our soldiers for some time. Remember what happened in Kanama, in Yobe State, where 30 soldiers are still missing. They went, killed our soldiers, took their equipment. They operated for hours in a convoy of about 7 vehicles. So this one now is to let them know that Nigerian army will not tolerate the expansion of their frontiers, at this time. So it's a massive lesson to them. And some of those trucks, I saw some of their trucks that were set up. These trucks were actually stolen from the army. When they attacked those guys who were going for oil exploration, they killed more than 18 soldiers. They took away our gun trucks, because the Air Force had been involved in bombing anything that they can see that is stationary in Sambisa. So at a point, they no longer had all these trucks. But constant attack on army convoys, army positions, ensured that they were able to loot.
Get some.
Yes. What they do is they go to an army base that is not so big. They know, they do some background checks. They will see that, okay, maybe on the average there are about 200 soldiers here. They will bring double that number of troops and then attack the base. So once they attack the base, they will take away weapons, gun trucks and all that. So it's a good thing that those gun trucks, a lot of them have been destroyed. Because if you watch the attack that they posted the attack on an army checkpoint in Mole. If you saw that they used a lot of gun trucks in that attack. So now once they've gone back to their Sambisa and we've destroyed those gun trucks, we are rendering them powerless. All that is left is the Mama Noor faction that is in the Lake Chad area. We should also sustain the hits on those guys. If you ask any senior person in the Air Force or even in the Army, they will tell you that it's the Mama Noor faction that they fear the most. Because the Mama Noor faction rarely kills civilians. It is soldiers that they want to kill all the time. And some of the most deadly attacks in recent times were carried out by the Mama Noor faction. Their location ensures that they can get weapons all the way from Libya. Because in that area, in the Lake Chad area where they are, they have access to Niger Republic, they have access to Chad. And when you see those two countries, in fact, I don't want to call them failed countries, but if you see a country like Niger, Boko Haram goes in and out of Niger. So they hibernate there.
Using the word of former president of the United States, axis of evil. Ismail, now how can we consolidate on this kind of, because it's quite encouraging.
Very encouraging. Very encouraging. I think what happened to us at some point was that we were carried away by the success we recorded. And on this platform, we always reiterate the fact that, look, fine, situations have improved, but we must not relax, we must not relapse. You know, so what we will tell our troops is that we appreciate what they are doing, but the effort must be sustained because usually, the battle, because usually once it starts raining, we go into another wahala. And if you recall, if you recall very well, last year, that was when the president wasn't feeling fine. That was why the governor of Borno, Shetima, was pleading with Oshibanjo and pleaded that, look, this is the best time to confront this guy. That once it starts raining, they won't win, they take over again. So now that, you know, we have upper hand now, I think our troops must sustain, the attack, while other civilians who have always assisted, the army, the troops, continue to give, their say. Because one thing about these people is that once they see that you are sustaining too much hit on them in one particular, the next thing you hear them from another location. If you recall the attack on Mubi in November, nobody expected anything to happen in Adamawa because we had all thought that, look, their concentration was in Borno. They have been confined to that area. But that attack in Mubi in Adamawa showed very clearly that, look, these guys are still around and could spring a surprise anytime.
What I would like to add to that is that like my colleague said, I want to appreciate our military for the good job they are doing, but they must know the kind of war they are fighting. America is probably the most powerful military nation in the world. They went to Afghanistan. They declared victory there. They are still fighting battles in Afghanistan. The kind of battle that we are, the kind of enemy that we are confronting is not a conventional army. So you cannot defeat them. You can reduce their activities, but you cannot claim ultimate victory because there is no battle line. The battle line is everywhere. They are terrorist group, so they can move. They are highly mobile. They can move. If you defeat them, if you defeat them, they will lie low for some time. Like you said, they can move into different countries. They can move into Niger. They can move into Chad. They will reorganize again, and then they can get weapons and then do surprise attack. So in sustaining it, we must also put in mind that this is a long battle, and we must prepare for that long battle. It's not that we'll just score some victories in some battles and we'll think we have won the war. That is the mistake that we made the other time, and we're deluding ourselves that we won the war. Now we know that we just won one particular battle. the world is still...
The war is still.
Well, Babajide, from the analysis you gave at first, now I think it's high time the federal government will look into actually investing heavily on the Nigerian Air Force in terms of how important. We thank God that these people, they don't have access to air power. That it would have been another story. Now that we have the monopoly of air power.
They can't get that because they can't get it to buy.
Yes.
Yes. The jet is not...
Okay, I think I have a caller from Maiduguri. Baba Gana from Maiduguri. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
Go ahead with your contribution, Baba Gana.
I'm very happy today to meet you. Thank you. Well done, sir. Thank you, sir. I'm calling from Maiduguri.
Okay, go ahead.
Honestly, the Nigerian troops are tremendously work. Because right now, they import fuel from 6 to 8 p.m. because for their operation. And the good news that is coming to us, honestly, they are making progress. And we have seen a lot of things on the Facebook, the way they are doing their jobs.
Thank you, Babagana. I have to go. Thank you, Babajide. I was trying to tell you about the, our Air Force, how we can actually use them to complement the effort of the Nigerian Army.
Yes, modern warfare is largely won by the Air Force these days. Although you must put surface troops on ground, even when they have sorted up a fighting zone. So we need to, and I'm happy that those Super Tucanos are coming, because these Super Tucanos were used by American Navy SEALs in Afghanistan, and they are reporting that the Super Tucano is in fact the kind of aircraft that we need in Nigeria, because it's rugged, it can fight at low altitude, and it can fight for 3 hours without any need for refueling. So that's the kind, and it can land even on depth. On ground, bare ground, it can land.
The Super Tucano.
Yes. So you don't need to go and land at an air base. So once the ground is hard, it can land and it can fight and support the ground troops continuously for hours. So we need to invest more in the equipment, because when I talk with some soldiers, they let me realize that it has not, even now, some of the equipment that we need, we still don't have. Modern warfare has gone beyond using AK-47. You know, you need the kind of guns that provide far more rapid fire than AK-47. More better guns that give you the range that AK-47 does not give you. Yes, AK-47 is durable at any time, even in
every Jack, Tom, Dick, and Harry has access to it.
It doesn't jam. It doesn't jam anyhow. You know, even in bad weather, like dusty weather, like this one. But the world has moved beyond that. The federal government must invest in good tanks, armor tanks, invest in air power. Because after this war, we don't know which war will be involved in.
That's true.
All right, moving on now. One of the prayers on the lips of the average worker is to earn more to survive the fleeting difficulty of Nigeria's economy. Workers are stuck between two words. With a minimum wage at 18,000 naira, many state governments have demonstrated, at least in the last 2 years, and the inability to pay. Today, workers pray for an increase with a wish that they can smile to the bank at the end of the month. On Sunday, the Minister of Labour and Productivity, Dr. Chris Ngege, gave the green lights that the federal government might jack up the minimum wage soon. How many states will be able to pay this, Mayor?
I'm not excited about it. Why I'm not excited about it is because even with 18,000 minimum wage, a lot of states are owing 10, 12 months. Rather, what I would suggest is that the federal government should concentrate on federal government workers and increase the minimum wage for federal government workers. It should not be binding on states. They should allow each state.
That would be contravening the Constitution.
Each Constitution. That's the problem, because because the military gave us this unitary Constitution because of the way they were doing things, and it makes it so difficult for everybody to do. Because my problem now is that yes, the federal government can pay, But what about the states? The states can't pay because with 18,000, we are obvious that without bailout, they cannot even pay salaries.
How do you want states like Ekiti State,
That's what I'm
Osun
saying.
State
So when
to
you
pay
now
more
say,
than 18,000?
when you say you have increased, we are increasing minimum
When the
wage.
IGR and
When you are saying
they're still grappling.
when you say you are increasing minimum wage,
18.
they've not paid the 18. That's what I'm saying. That the 18. If you notice that in the last 2 years, a lot of states depends on bailout from federal government to pay salaries. Apart from bailout, this Paris reform.
Yeah.
Without those things, they cannot pay.
One day the Paris Club will end.
It will end. You can't continue to collect Paris
Paris
funds.
Club.
So, and this federal government does not even have the resources to be giving bailout every time. So if you increase the minimum wage, these states cannot pay. So we have to be sincere with ourselves. It's either we retrench workers and reduce the wage bill, or we leave it the way it is. That's it.
Somebody just asked me that, can Kogi pay?
Has Kogi been able to pay the current one? You know, when I heard the news, I just concluded that, well, maybe the federal government wants to start another round of crisis that it may not be able to
that
contain.
crisis we...
Yes, because you see, one problem we have, like, you see, our laws, I don't know. And unfortunately, the elites who always take part in some of these conferences and what have you, there has not been sincerity of purpose in some of the things we do, because I cannot understand why a man who is living in Abuja will be earning the same amount with a man who is living in Zamfara. You know, it happened to me when I was in Abuja, for example, between 2005 and 2008. I was living in Gariki, for those who know Abuja very well. Gariki, Area 10. There I was staying in a room and a parlor. I was paying 450,000 naira. Now, I was transferred to Kaduna in 2008, December precisely. I was living in Branawa. For those who know Kaduna very well, Branawa is more like an eyebrow area. 2-bedroom flat, I was paying 250,000 naira.
450.
250. 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom. You understand? But my colleagues who were working in Abuja at that time, and me who is working in Kaduna, we earn the same amount of salary.
So the standard of living...
You get it. So I don't know what informed the decision of federal government to toe this line, but they should realize that we are in election year, and anything they do and they don't do it well, it will boomerang on them.
Is it playing to the gallery in any way?
I think so.
Now, this is really, the minimum wage is 5 years, Abi? Yeah. The federal government has already faulted that law. So it's time to review. They have no choice to review this. But in doing this, it's inevitable the review, but should this be binding on states?
Let's be realistic.
You look at the Constitution. What does the Constitution say? The Constitution says there shall be a minimum wage. It didn't say a minimum wage for federal civil servants and a different one for the people in the states. So it's saying that there shall be a minimum wage. So we have to, and that minimum wage, the Constitution also stipulates when it can be reviewed. Already this government is in deficit in that area. Yeah. Because the last minimum wage raise that we got was under Goodluck Jonathan in 2011. So it's time, based on what the Constitution stipulates, it's time for a new minimum wage. So no government will sit back and willfully contravene the Constitution. Because we have to be fair to these people. People will use that against them. An election year is approaching. They will say, oh, see, you do not care about the welfare of the Nigerian workers. The Constitution says this, you are doing a different thing. So we can't really blame them that they are talking about it at this time. But we've seen governors who have said that they are prepared to pay. Like the governor of Gombe State. He was the first to come out to say, come up with a new minimum wage and I'm prepared to pay. You know? So that is the thing. But we have governors who are incapable of even paying the current one. So it's a whole lot of problems. But just as Mayor said, at the federal level and the state level, we need to look at right-sizing the civil service. We can't be paying at the federal level. We are paying in excess of 130 billion every month, you know, to service the federal bureaucracy. So can we continue?
Okay.
And if we increase the minimum wage, it means that maybe from 130, it could even go to 200.
Of course.
Okay, Jide,
Of course, it will go
okay,
it will go to 200.
But actually, look
It's going to
at
go to
states
that.
like Osun State now. Osun State, the civil servant, the numerical strength of the civil workforce there, they are not up to 30% of the entire population.
How can they even be able to?
But Osun State is using over 85%.
Yeah,
of
to
the
service,
money it gets from the federal government.
Yes, to
service.
service.
But that doesn't make
This
sense.
is
don't
a
see-
small set of people.
don't
But does
pay-
that make economic
you're in
sense?
trouble.
You see, Nigerians now see any governor who is unable to pay salaries regularly is seen as a failed governor. But you have, for governors, you have to balance
They're not looking at
between
the
providing
the
infrastructure and paying salaries of civil servants who are just an infinitesimal
But the
percentage.
problem is that there are some governors who are not providing the infrastructure and who are still not paying salary. Yeah. So what do you say about those ones?
But if you see, but the truth is, I
What's
don't
he
think.
doing with his money? What's the,
I don't think that it makes sense for us, the resources of the state, to spend more than 80% of the resources of the state on people who are very few, who are probably 100th of the population of that state. I don't think it makes sense. Because you ask yourself,
And it's not even
if
fair.
I do this road, if I do a road, like in the Niger Delta, for example, where it's very costly to build roads, you ask yourself that if I do a road that leads from this place to this place, people those places will be accessible for everyone. Not just the civil servant, for everyone. The government is for everybody. But the way it is now, if you don't pay, you'll be blackmailed. They will call you names. They will say you are a failed governor. So governors should summon the courage. I always use the example of Tinubu. Tinubu during his first term, he wasn't afraid that he could lose
A second election.
And Nasir El-Rufai has joined
he right-sized the civil service. He right-sized it here in Lagos.
Those people now by doing what he did in December.
And it's
with 21,000
the problem
teachers.
is that most governors are cowardly. They can't summon that kind of courage. They can't. You know the war here with the civil servants and Tinubu. In fact, let me tell you, in Ward C here, where Tinubu voted, you know that he was defeated in his Ward C here. Because civil servants were still angry when he went for second term. The civil servants were still angry about how he went about the thing. But in the end, other parts of Lagos gave him the victory that he needed. So leaders should not be afraid to take the big decisions. You cannot sustain this, but because you think your party will lose the election, then you go and do what Oshomole did.
Call them back.
Call back people that you are fired.
Mayor, your last take on this?
Like I said, I'm not excited about the minimum wage. I think we have to find a way of changing the constitution to allow all the federated units to pay what they can, to determine what they can pay. Because like he said, I don't see a reason why you equate the worker in Lagos, Abuja with that one in Samfara or Bayelsa. So
cost of living is not the same.
It's not the same. It's not the same. So every state should determine what they will pay their workers.
I think also even proceeding from that, even the oil petroleum price, I don't think it makes sense to expect that across the board.
Yeah, same thing.
You see how we spend money.
The cost
It can't be
of transporting
145
fuel to
naira in
Maiduguri
Lagos
is not the same thing as the cost of transporting fuel to Ogun State.
We have come up with we came up with the petroleum equalization funds so that everybody can earn the same. Everybody can pay the same across the country. These are not models that are sustainable. Let's tell ourselves the truth. Ultimately, we'll come back and do what is right.
Well, like I said, and I want to also say, I want to reiterate that, look, we should find a way of amending our law. And I am also aware that this current constitution review exercise, I think I attended one of the sessions where the proposal was made to, decentralize this minimum wage. Labour kicked vehemently against it. Although the argument they put forward was tenable, that some governors may use the loophole not to even offer ridiculously low. That was only 5,000. That was the argument they put forward, and that was how the clause was. The clause was defeated, and that there should be more consultation, you know, on it. So I think it's high time we have to come to realization that look, certain things cannot work, and we must do what is realistic and what is practicable.
Jide, your party shots?
Yes, I think we have to take a second look at that constitution. There are so many portions of that constitution that should go if we really want to achieve real progress as a country. Some of those, there are mistakes were made. Mistakes were made. Once we realize that those mistakes
start to amend it.
Let's look for ways to amend those portions of the constitution. That's the way to go.
I want to thank you, Mayor Akikbelu, for being part of this interesting episode of Journalist Hangout. It's a very good way to start our week. You can't get a better way. Ismail Omikidon, thank you so much. And the Grandmaster itself, Babajide Kolade Otitoju. And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another interesting episode of the program. You can watch the repeat broadcast tonight at 11. You can also watch Journalist Hangouts on all our platforms showing on the screen right now. You can also watch it on YouTube. That's youtube.com/TVC News. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangouts at tvcnews.tv. I'm Ayodele Ozubako. See you tomorrow. Bye. God bless Nigeria.